Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to kind of talk about digital art, and I want to give tips to those who are just starting out. I'm going to be talking about what programs you can use, what tablets you can use, and just some general tips for beginners. I've never done anything like this before, so I'm not sure if I'm good at really giving tips, but I guess we'll find out. Before we get into the video, I just want to quickly say that I am not a professional. I've been doing digital art for like 4 years now, and these tips are just based on my own experience. If you're not a beginner, or you're just simply not interested in tutorials, then this video is not going to be for you, and I'm very sorry. You can click away right now if you want to, and if you do, I hope to see you in the next video. And if you're going to stick around, then I hope you'll enjoy this one. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about tablets. I personally use the Wacom Intuos Art Medium. It's definitely my favorite tablet I've had so far. I used to have a Wacom Bamboo or something, which is it's an old model, and I don't even think it's available right now. But I honestly don't recommend getting it because if your pen nib breaks, which pen nibs are like the little tiny things in your pen that react to the tablet, like if they break, you cannot replace them. You'd have to buy an entirely new pen, which is pretty expensive. But with the newer models from Wacom, including the Intuos series, you can easily replace the pen nibs by just buying a 5-pack online. Pen nibs are something that have to be replaced every once in a while. It kind of depends on how hard you're pressing the pen down and how often you draw. For me, I have to replace them like every 3 months maybe. Yeah, that is something that you have to keep in mind if you're gonna use a tablet. You can of course also use an iPad or any other tablet, but I'm not really gonna cover that because I'm not experienced in it, and I've never even had an iPad. If you want to figure out how to start digital art on an iPad, I would suggest googling a different video because yeah, I'm not gonna talk about it. As for sizes, I have never had a small or a large tablet. I've always had a medium, so I can't really give too many tips about sizes of your tablet, but from what I've heard, the small one is not really the best because it's really small. The medium one I would definitely recommend because the price is like normal, whereas the small tablet's obviously the cheapest. The large ones are extremely expensive. I've never had one, but I honestly don't think I would like it very much because I'm so used to this size. So if I'm ever gonna buy a new tablet for whatever reason, I'm probably gonna stick with the medium one. Okay, so now I'm gonna talk about the programs and the apps that you can use. In the beginning, I would definitely use a free app or program because you're not sure if digital art is for you. If you're gonna pay for a program and you're gonna find out later that digital art is not your thing, it's gonna suck pretty bad. So I have some free programs here that I'm gonna name, and I'm gonna talk about each of them a bit more in detail. The first one I'm gonna talk about is FireAlpaca/Medibang. FireAlpaca and Medibang are both created by the same people, and they're both really similar to one another, so that's why I listed them as one. I used FireAlpaca first for like maybe 2 years, maybe 1 or 2 years, I'm not sure. And then eventually I switched to Medibang, and I personally like Medibang more than I like FireAlpaca. I actually still use Medibang till this day. I've never switched programs since I discovered it. And it's like 100% free. It doesn't even have a premium version. And it's very beginner friendly, I'd say. Compared to some other programs, Medibang looks very clean in its layout, whereas some programs kind of overwhelm me with what they offer. So yeah, that's good. I would definitely recommend Medibang the most, and FireAlpaca. They're both, like I said, they're both kind of the same thing. So yeah, this is definitely the best one, I'd say. I also forgot to mention that Medibang is for all devices, including your phone. And yeah, I have the app myself, but I've never really drawn in it. I just have it so that I can look at my drawings through Cloud Save and maybe edit it if necessary, but I've never really drawn on it, so I don't know if the app is really good. But if you happen to be a phone artist and you're looking for a free art program, I guess I would recommend it. Fire Alpaca does not have a phone app, but it is for both Mac and Windows. And I also forgot to mention that Medibang is also for Mac. So if you're a Mac user, this program will also be for you. Now on to the next program. This is actually the first program I've used, like the very first one. It's called Autodesk SketchBook. It is free, but it does have a premium version. And I haven't used this program in a while, so I could be wrong, but back in the day, the free version was extremely limited. There were brushes that you couldn't use unless you bought premium, and you were only limited to using 3 layers, and I personally don't really... Like, I use a shit ton of layers, so only being able to use 3 is very, very disappointing. I did enjoy it back in the day because I wasn't really drawing seriously, I was just trying it out. Like I said, it was the very first program I downloaded, so yeah, it's good for the beginning, but if you're getting better at art, I would definitely recommend switching to a different program. But it could be all different now, because I haven't used this program in years, so I don't know if the free version has changed, but if it's still the same, then yeah, like I said, I would just recommend switching to a different program. I don't know if this program is available for Mac, but I do know that it has an app. So again, if you're a phone user, then this might be for you, but I don't know. I personally don't recommend this program as much as the other ones, but yeah, it's up to you. The next 2 programs I cannot talk too much about because I've only used it once, and then with both times I got very confused and I kind of gave up. And the programs are Krita and GIMP. Krita is pretty big. It has a shit ton of brushes from what I remember. It was very confusing to me. Like, as soon as I opened the program, it was just a bunch of shit in my face, and it was very overwhelming. However, I do believe it could be a good program if you study it. Like, if you search on YouTube Krita beginner's tutorial or whatever, and like if you learn how everything works, I think it could be a good program, but I'm not sure. I think Krita has a Mac version. I don't know if it has an app. I don't think it does. And Krita is also 100% free. I'm not sure. I know almost nothing about Krita or GIMP, so this part of the video is kind of just going to be me being clueless. As for GIMP, I've tried it once and I didn't really like how it looked, so I gave up immediately. Which is kind of harsh. I didn't even really give it a chance, but a lot of artists recommend GIMP for some reason, so that's kind of why I added it to this list. So yeah, maybe I should try it for a video, but I personally have no experience with GIMP. If you want to get into GIMP or Krita, I would suggest doing your own research on the program, because like I said, I don't know anything about it. So yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so now I'm gonna talk about some general tips that I wrote down. These are not really in a specific order. I just kind of made a list of things I kind of wish I knew before I started digital art, or like things I wish I knew in the beginning. So I hope these are going to be useful. Some of these I think have been mentioned a lot by other artists, but that just kind of proves how important these tips are. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so the first tip I wrote down is always save your work as MDP plus PNG. And that might need some explanation. A PNG file is just your finished work, and it's just one image. Whereas MDP is a file, well, specifically to Medibang and Fire Alpaca only. If you're using a different program, this file might be not MDP, but something else. But basically that file saves your work, but it also saves the layers. So that's extremely useful, and I always recommend saving your artwork twice. In some programs this might be called a cloud save. I'm not sure because I only use Medibang. But yeah, I hope you kind of understand what I mean. But this tip is not really that big, it's just kind of self-explanatory. Just make sure you save your artwork a lot. Make sure you have your progress saved and everything. Also save multiple times, because at some point in your life, your art program is going to crash no matter how good it is. It happens to all of us, so make sure you always save. I cannot stress this enough. The next tip I wrote down is kind of optional because it's about shading, and some artists don't really shade. And also in the beginning, I don't really recommend shading yet. It's kind of a next level step, at least I'd say. So this tip can be useful, it kind of depends on your style. But what I wrote down is never shade with black. And it's a tip that has been given to you probably a million times by now, because almost everyone says it, never shade with black. However, I don't entirely agree with this. I think it's okay to shade with black as long as what you're shading is actually black. Like for example, black hair. If you're drawing a character whose hair is black, you're obviously allowed to shade with black. I don't really see a problem with that. However, what I do have a problem with is the fact that people shade skin color black, or like a pink shirt black, or freaking blonde hair black. I just don't see it. Black shading makes everything look so dirty. Like literally, if you use any other color, it doesn't really matter what color, as long as it's not black, it would look so much better. I cannot stress this enough. Believe me, I use the shade with black, okay? I know what it's like. It's not pretty. Just like, look up shading tutorials if you have to, but it's really, really important that you don't shade with black on like really light colors. Please do yourself a favor and learn how to shade. Sorry, that sounds a bit rude, but like, just please don't shade with black. It makes your art look so much better if you don't shade with black. Even not shading looks better than shading with black, okay? That's how serious this is. Okay, moving on. The next tip I wrote down kind of has to do with the last one, which is don't use the airbrush too much. I don't know what it is, but in the beginning, airbrush is your like go-to shading brush. And like for the beginning, that's fine, but if you're gonna do digital art seriously and if you want to get better at it, I highly suggest not using it as much. Using it here and there is completely fine, but don't use it exclusively. Don't be afraid to use other brushes for shading. What I recommend, like almost every program has this, but I'm not sure, but I always recommend going for like a watercolor brush or water oil, an oil brush. I don't know, it's different depending on the program, but it's like this brush that basically blends on its own, which is really nice. And yeah, like I said, I think it's better than an airbrush. This kind of depends on the style as well, because I kind of still use airbrush, not as much, but I only really use it if I want to draw blush on characters. Yeah, it kind of depends on your style too, because if your style is about airbrush, then I guess this tip isn't really useful. But in the beginning, I see so many artists using black and an airbrush to shade skin. It's just, yeah, I'm not going to talk about the shading with black anymore. I think I've said enough, but I don't know. Combining that with the airbrush makes it look even dirtier than it would normally look. But yeah, I don't know. This tip is kind of weird because I have this love-hate relationship with the airbrush. Because like I use it myself, I love it, but at the same time, I don't really like art where it's used everywhere. I don't really know how to explain. Yeah, just try out new brushes for shading. Don't just stick with one brush. And yeah, that's basically my tip. The next tip kind of goes back to the other two again. I don't even know why this is synced up so well. I think this is just a happy accident. Again, this isn't in a specific order. But this next tip is experiment with different brushes and styles. I think I've talked about this a bit already, but basically don't be afraid to switch brushes. I should really tell myself this because I still use the same brushes. In the beginning of your art career, you don't really have a style yet. Maybe on paper, but it's gonna be a bit different drawing digitally. So this tip is basically try to experiment with different styles and brushes. I'm not sure about all of the programs that I've mentioned, but some programs that I've mentioned have a big variety of brushes that you should really play with in the beginning. You don't even have to draw anything yet, just try and mess with it. Maybe even mess with the settings if you're comfortable with that. There are also some custom brushes online, for Medibang at least. I'm not sure if that really works with other programs, but you can always look up custom brushes too. And yeah, just don't be afraid to experiment, because in the beginning that's going to be really important. The next tip I have is, if you have no inspiration, use Pinterest. Pinterest in general, I think, is an app that everyone should have and use. It's basically Google Images, but better. I have a lot of mood boards for myself that involve digital art stuff, like for example references, poses, fashion, flowers. Like, you can make so many mood boards about so many different things, and if you just run out of inspiration one day, you can just look at that. It really does help. At least it helps me. It might not help you, I don't really know, but it helps me, so I thought, why not give this tip to you? The next tip is look at artists you like and try to observe what they're doing. Obviously don't copy what they're doing. That's not good. What I'm saying with this tip is basically like, everyone has Instagram, right? Or Twitter or whatever. Just look at a few artists, follow them, maybe support them. Look at what they're doing. Look at their line art, look at their shading, their coloring. Are they using a lot of pinks or a lot of purples? You can, like, surprisingly, you can learn a lot by just looking at someone's art. And if they have a YouTube channel, maybe they even make tutorials themselves, which could help. I don't really know if this tip is helpful for you, but for me it was really helpful to look at different artists, especially when trying to find a style. It really helped to just pick a few artists and kind of study their art, look very closely, see what they're doing, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, personally, it helped me, so I thought, why not give this tip to you so that it could maybe help you too. This tip is also optional because it's about line art, and not everyone does line art. Line art is very much 50-50, it's up to you. If you don't know what line art is, it's the thing that I always do at the beginning of the video. It's like outlining your sketch and then coloring it in, etc. That's your line art. And the tip is that it doesn't have to be as clean as you think it should be. I don't know. I feel like, I could be wrong, but I feel like a lot of artists think that line art has to be clean and it has to be perfect, but it really doesn't. There are also artists out there that have like really, really messy line art and it still works. It still looks good and it still looks fine. So this tip is basically don't think that your line art has to be perfect. It's okay if there are a few messy lines. In some cases, it even makes the drawing look better. So again, don't be afraid to experiment with the line art as well. I myself have very clean line art, but that's what I personally prefer. It's also kind of up to you, like, what do you prefer? Do you prefer clean line art or really messy line art? Just maybe try experiment with the both and see whatever fits your style better. The next tip is don't focus too much on perfection, because practicing digital art is way more important in the beginning. In the beginning, your art is probably not going to be the best, and that's okay, that's normal. Just practice, 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 and you'll get there eventually. Worry about perfection later, and just focus more on what you're doing at this moment. The last tip for today is something that I kind of need to hear. I've been doing art for 4 years, but this is still hard for me. And the tip is, art is extremely hard and time consuming, especially in the beginning. Don't be hard on yourself. And like I said, that's something that even I still have problems with. Like, I can be very hard on myself when it comes to art. Yeah, that's something to worry about later, but in the beginning it's so useless to be so hard on yourself, because like I said, you're just starting out, you're just beginning. There is no point in being so hard on yourself, because you just need more time, you just need more practice, and like everything else should just come with time. It's gonna take time to get to your style, it's gonna take time to be good at art, it's just gonna take a lot of time. That's just a fact. Don't compare yourself to other artists, and just practice daily. That's also a really good tip. Just to draw daily. It doesn't matter if it's good or not, just try it out. Just give yourself some time to grow. And for some artists that might take years, and for others it might take weeks, but give yourself that time. Okay, that was it for the tips. I hope you found it useful, and I wish you good luck on your art journey. And yeah, like I said before, it's just very hard to get into, so please give yourself time and don't be hard on yourself. I genuinely hope you enjoyed this video. Bye!
Hey
guys, I now finally have a Discord server and the link will be in the description. Feel free to join and yeah, I hope to see you there. Thank you so much Evan Myro and Adriana No for supporting me on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I have never made a video like this before. If you like these kinds of videos, let me know and I'll see if I can make more. But yeah, that's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you so much for watching. Bye!